All right, Kevin back with you with another episode of Million Dollar Relationships. And today I am here with Jeff. Jeff, welcome to the show. So awesome to have you.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I found you through Andrew Ailman's list. I've been on his list for a while, and I have found a number of amazing entrepreneurs through Andrew. I am very grateful to Andrew, even though him and I personally have never met. And when I found you, and I went to your website, and I'm like, my gosh, here's a guy who, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but you had started this business of your own, and then now you've ended up turning it into a franchise, and you've got almost like 300 franchisees at this point for this business. And when I was looking at your website a week or so ago, I was just like, I ain't gonna lie, Jeff, I was like totally blown. I'm like, here's a guy who's doing something pretty big here and stuff. And so I was excited to just interview you, and because I'm like, here's a guy who obviously values relationships. So what I'd like to do is just kind of start off by letting you provide a little bit of context, so you can share a little bit of your background, what you do, who you serve, what inspires you to do what you do, and we'll just start there, Jeff.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I graduated college in 2002, 21 years ago, which is painful to say that was 21 years ago. So I'm showing my age. And I kind of knew really when I left Boston that I wanted to do my own thing. Started the barbecue cleaner a few years later. And as you mentioned, I mean, we're kind of closing in on our 300th location. Hopefully that'll happen, I would imagine, sometime next year or in 2025. Okay. But I agree with what you said, that, the way that we've done it, and I've often said this in other interviews as well, is the value of your relationship and the way you communicate with people. If we didn't have that skill set, and we're not masters of it, but I think we do a pretty good job of it. If we hadn't done as well as we have done communicating with people, the business would definitely not be where it is today.
Yeah. So what has been the most inspiring thing for you about running this franchise business, Jeff?
Well, the most inspiring thing is the gift that I've been given to allow other people to experience the gift of entrepreneurship, right? It's inspiring to me to see people start the business, find the entrepreneurial dream through our business model. That's inspiring every day. I mean, I'm fortunate that I live that every single day. It's a blessing. Yeah. So that's definitely the biggest inspiration of this job, is seeing other people kind of get to be inspired by what we do and find the riches of entrepreneurial freedom.
Yeah. So is there one or two of your franchisees that just really stand out as like just success story that you're just like, wow, I am so glad that I got to meet this person through the work that we do and stuff?
Yeah, there are. I mean, they're all super important. I don't know that there's one that's more than others, but first thing that came to mind when you asked me the question, there was a gentleman in 2014 outside of Dallas who was getting out of the Air Force and needed to do something with his life and a career, and basically said to us, look, I don't want to go start the corporate ladder right now. He's business, and now he's a multi-unit guy. He owns multiple locations and multiple crews, and he's found, he's struck gold with it. He'll never do anything else in his life. He's not going to have to. So that's one of them. But look, I think every success story that we have, and we never get tired of reading of them or hearing of them, they're all different. I mean, and they're all awesome. I mean, I never get tired of hearing about it.
Yeah, I can totally envision that for sure. Well, okay. So now that we've got a little bit of context set here, I'm gonna switch gears, and I'm gonna reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners. So, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons that completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And Jeff, I'm just really excited to hear about your story, your experience around this, and give you the opportunity to share it with other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the answer to that question is my father, but I was introduced to him long before I got of being, so I was in between my sophomore and junior year in college, and I had gotten at that time what was kind of known as, your big break in your life. I'd gotten an internship in New York City, where I live outside of. I got a really good internship with one of a large PR firm.
Okay.
And I was taking the commuter rail in because you can't drive into the city. I mean, that's not really, practical, especially when you're 20. So I was taking the commuter rail in. And back then, now I'm going to scare your listeners, there were no iPhones. We would use Walkman to, if you wanted audio entertainment of tuning to the FM dial. And I didn't want to do that. So my father introduced me to a book. He's a well-known author, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read the book Cash Flow Quadrant, and I think that book, I say this a lot, was really the book, and again, it was given to me by my father to answer your question, was really the thing that triggered the light bulb in my head to say, 2 years from now when I graduate college, I'm not sure that I want to go down that corporate ladder road. I maybe want to do something different here and run my own business. And that book I've now recommended to so many people. And it's amazing because when people have come back to me and they said, "Hey, I read the Cash Flow Quadrant," and given me their opinion, I've never heard a negative. I mean, it's weird. I've never heard anyone say I don't like it. I wasn't inspired by it. It hasn't made me want to redo my thinking on my career. So that my father giving me that book, I think, was really a turning point model or a turning point, moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So, this brings up a lot for me because what year would that have been, Jeff?
So that was the summer. So the internship was the summer of 2000.
Okay. So we're talking that was 20 because I'm trying to figure out timelines here because I was exposed to Rich Dad Poor Dad and Cash Flow Quadrant when they first came out too and stuff and read those books. And both of those books had quite a profound impact on me and the way I viewed business and being an investor too. And so I'm just like well, I'm not going to get sidetracked here because I could tend to do that, Jeff. And so, but I want to keep this focused on you and the people that have impacted your life. So, your father was a big impact in like having, suggesting that book, and that has had a big impact. I know there was probably another person or two that you wanted to recognize and honor as well. So I want to make sure I give you time to do that before I ask any big questions.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think when you have supportive parents, so I'll throw my mother in that mix as well. I think that makes a world of difference. I think being 20, 24, you're 25 years old when I started this. I mean, and living at home, if you don't have the support of your parents who are also your roommate at that time, I think it's going to be a little bit of an uphill climb, especially out of the get-go. So thankfully, I didn't have to do that. So my mom was doing that answer. My wife, I mean, there's no more supportive person of me on this planet than my wife. So she certainly deserves credit for that as well. So I've been lucky to have a good team around me.
Yeah. So if you look at what has transpired in your life since your dad recommended that you read this book by Robert Kiyosaki, what is one or two things that has transpired as a result of that hands down would have never happened had your dad never recommended you read that book? And of course, then you following through and actually reading it.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? I think the answer to that might just be that if I didn't read the book, I don't know that I start my own business. I mean, I really think that there would have been a good chance that I did that PR internship that summer of 2000 and start working on a resume to graduate a year and a half later and look to climb the corporate ladder. And I'm sure, as when once people start climbing the corporate ladder, a lot of them stay on it the rest of their life, trying to climb. There's some that get out, but and I could have certainly, fallen into that trap. So I think if I didn't get that book, I think the one thing that came out of it was really kind of the vision to see what the life of an entrepreneur could be and the confidence that it could be a lot better than trying to climb the corporate ladder.
Yeah. And so how did this happen? How did the barbecue cleaner business happen, Jeff? I mean, walk me through, because I'm fascinated by what you've achieved with it, and that you have, almost 300 locations nationwide. But how did you even get into it? What were the beginnings of that?
And it's a weird story. We're talking about college, and I certainly didn't go to college to clean grease. I mean, I studied. Um, so I had graduated, and as we talked about, wanted to do my own business, Kevin, and found out about a company in the United Kingdom that was cleaning ovens.
Okay.
And the process at the time was, well, there was nobody in the US doing that. So I had a passport because I had just gotten a passport, coincidentally, because my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, had invited me to go to Mexico with her family. I didn't have anything to do. I had never been to England, so I got on a plane. Because remember, back then, you couldn't go on Google and get information on stuff, right? You actually had to physically meet with them. So I went on a plane and went over there, and we agreed to do a 6-month pilot test in which we would test the concept cleaning ovens here in the United States. And if it worked, great, we would continue it. But because it was a 6-month pilot test, we didn't have, long-term contractual obligations either. So we could kind of walk away. And so we started it. And about 2 months into it, we got to the point of the year where we are now, which is March. And people would say when we were out cleaning the oven, hey, while you're here, can you clean the grill outside? It was no, because we don't do that. Until it got to a point where so many people were asking, we kind of said, all right, let's see what modifications we would have to make to the system we're using to clean ovens, to use it to clean grills. And we realized that we really didn't have to make much modifications at all. And so we ran an ad, and from there, it's never stopped. That was over, that was 18 years ago. I mean, we've been since then. So it's a weird story. It's like, before you and I went live on the air here, we were joking about the saying, even the blind squirrel finds the acorn once in a while. And I feel like that's kind of me with this business, because it's kind of what happened. But yeah, that's the background of it.
Yeah. But what a testament to find a need and fill it. You found that all these people were like, man, they're asking about the grill, and nobody's doing this. And we could do it with very little modification to what we're already doing. And here you are, all these years later, still filling a need, and doing it in a big way. And so, so now I am just curious, because like I said, I'm really fascinated by what you've accomplished. How did you happen to get into franchising, Jeff?
So we'd gotten started here doing it locally for a couple of years, and through the course of those years, we would get phone calls occasionally, not often. And someone, hey, I live in Phoenix, and I saw what you're doing, or I heard about what you're doing. Do you know how to do? Can you show me how to do this out here? And we turned it down until we got to a point in 2009 where we felt comfortable and confident that, hey, we knew exactly what we had done to get to this point, that we could show someone how to replicate it in their market. And our first location opened the first week in June of 2009 in Mesa, Arizona, right outside of Phoenix, a little bit south of the city.
Okay.
And really, since then, it's just been consistent growth. Again, we've been super fortunate here around here. But that's how we got into it.
Wow. And it's, once again, it's find a need and fill it. You had people asking, and you're like, okay, you know what? We're at the point, yeah, we got this thing dialed in. We can help with that. So let's go ahead and help some folks with this, and that's how I've kind of got into everything I do is people saying, hey, I need help with this. And I'm like, you know what? I know somebody. Let me connect you with that person. I think they can help you with that, And yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, okay. So for anybody listening to this, which is mostly entrepreneurs, and for anybody listening to this that is just like, you know what, man, Kev, I really like Jeff. I like who he is. I like the way he shows up. How can they find out more about what you guys are doing and all that?
So our website is chock full of information. I think our website is great at kind of giving you a basic understanding of what we do. And that website is www.thebbqcleaner.com. I encourage people to go there. And if it's something you're interested in, we do all the time these free 15-minute consultations where we spend some time on the phone with you and we kind of say, look, what is it you're looking to do with your life, right? And also, what is your demographic? And we try to put those two things together and see if this is a good fit for people. Because what we don't want to happen is we don't want someone with an expectation of what they're trying to achieve to come here if it's not a realistic expectation, right? We have 271 success stories for a reason, right? Because we were able to identify what this individual was looking to do they could accomplish here. So go to the website, take advantage of the free 15-minute consultations that we do. That would be the easiest way to go about it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'll tell you, Jeff, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and have this conversation today. I'm really excited to share your story and your experience with other entrepreneurs. Any last thing that you want to share before we call it a wrap?
No, the insight. I love the show, Kevin. I've listened to it on Apple a little bit, and keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. And thanks again, Jeff, for taking the time today. Really appreciate it, man.